We welcome you to this audio series intended to provide information to those eligible for Air Force legal assistance, which include active duty military members, their dependents, and retirees. Our hope with this series, which we are calling The Art of Law at Hill Air Force Base, is that we can convey legal assistance information to you that is readily available, provide information that is responsive to your needs, and to do so in a timely manner. This series is for information purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for legal advice from an attorney.
Hello, my name is John Bergstresser, and I'm an attorney here at Hill Air Force Base Legal Office. I'm joined today with Carly Johnson with the Force Support Squadron. Carly, thank you for coming in and joining us today to talk about private organizations. I would like for us to begin by you introducing yourself to our audience members and talking to them a little bit about how your office interacts with the private organizations on base.
I'm from the FSS FSR office. We are in charge of the private organizations program per AFI 34223. We are the NAF accounting office, but per the AFI, we are the ones that need to hold the records for audit purposes for what was approved and denied. That's why all communications will go through our office. We are the first point of contact for everything. Everything that we do in our office is going to be driven by the regulations, which is AFI 34223 or DAFI 363101. We also do work jointly with Airbase Wing JA just to see if there's anything that they need to check off on or if we have any questions about legalities. For the private orgs office, you can contact us through 75fss.private.orgs@us.af.mil. We also have a website at hillfss.com. There's a section for private orgs as well as fundraising. That's going to have all of the information that you might need or any future contact information.
So Carly, I heard that unofficial activities before. I've heard of private organizations. Can you explain a little bit about the differences between the two?
Unofficial activities are going to be things like your Sunshine Fund, your Slush Fund, a Party Fund. Those are unit-affiliated activities. Typically, it's going to be a smaller scale event or fundraiser. Everything that you do will be for us, by us. So that is fundraising for your unit with the donations coming from your unit. If you want to open it up to those outside of your unit, that would be a private organization and not an unofficial activity. Unofficial activities are limited to a $1,000 asset limit on average for monthly basis. Unofficial activities are limited to a $1,000 asset limit average over a 3-month period. If you're going to want to exceed a $1,000 limit, you will need to apply to become a private organization. Unofficial activities are also not allowed to do any off-base fundraising. Private organizations are going to be a self-sustaining special interest group set up by your individuals acting exclusively outside of the scope of any official Air Force duties. You are going to be off-duty, out of uniform, not using any official government email addresses, phone numbers, or titles. Instead of Sergeant so-and-so, you will be Mr. so-and-so. Private organizations operate with Air Force Installation Commander written consent that has been delegated down to the MSG commander.
And how do we start that process?
You will start the process by going through the FSR office. We will put a document package together and send it up to get approval. For a private organization, there's no limit on how much funds you can generate, but you are limited to 3 on-base fundraisers per quarter. Private organizations are allowed to do off-base fundraising, and there's no cash limit on how much you can have. You will just have to do additional audits and reviews if you have over a certain amount.
Thank you, Carly. Very helpful information. We talked about the private organization process. Are there any requirements for an unofficial activities?
The requirements for an unofficial activity is going to your unit commander and have them take responsibility for your unofficial activity. They will approve or deny you to create a new unofficial activity. They will also be your approving figure for fundraisers, requests, or parties. At a minimum, you need a 2-person cash accountability system and to provide your unit commander an annual financial statement. Any additional requirements will be up to your unit commander to decide, and they will let you know what rules they would want. Your unit commander will only approve your for us, by us fundraisers. If you want to open up a fundraiser to those outside of your unit, you will need to reach out to the FSR office, and we will get FSS approval if possible.
What are the requirements and documents that you would need for a private organization?
Private org requirements are a little bit more involved than an unofficial activity. We've made every effort to make it easier by making templates that are available on our website. The only documents that you really will have to write and take time to put together yourself would be your constitution and bylaws. Those can be reused year after year, so it makes it a little bit easier. Some of the information that we need if you apply to be a private org is your request to establish, proof of liability insurance, or an insurance requirement waiver. That will be your most important piece that we need for private orgs. All private orgs are off-duty, unaffiliated with the Air Force, which means all of your members are personally liable, individually and jointly, for any damages or accidents that occur during your events or fundraisers. Liability insurance is required per AFI 34223. There is an option to get a waiver if you will be doing low-risk activities, but just having a waiver for the requirement to have insurance does not waive your risk of liability or your responsibility of any accidents that occur. We also require an officer list with contact information, financial statements, your constitution and bylaws, meeting minutes, and any audits or financial reviews as required by the AFI. You do not need to be tax exempt to become a private organization, but it is highly recommended. You will be liable for any taxes that incur if you are not tax exempt.
Where's the tax exempt information available at?
All tax exempt information is available through the IRS. You will sign up for a 501c if you qualify under the IRS rules. You will need to submit your documents yearly. We have chosen January as our recertification month, so everyone knows every year in January you will reach back out to our private orgs office and send in updated information. And just to give you an idea on where your documents go after they come to me, I will do a preliminary review, and if I notice anything egregiously wrong, we'll send it back to you to update before we send it off to legal. They will review things like your constitution and bylaws or your insurance request waiver. They will send it back to our office, and we either send it back to the private org for correction or we push it forward for review for approval.
So Carly, I know we get a lot of questions about fundraising. You get a lot of questions about fundraising. So why don't we talk about fundraising?
All fundraising will be under the DAFI 363101. That will cover all fundraising on the base and off of the base for private orgs and unofficial activities. It also will cover in-kind donations for the holidays. For private orgs wanting to do an on-base fundraiser, the form is available online, and you must submit it at least 14 days in advance. You will need to get the facility manager's signature if you're trying to use a facility on the base. You will also need to get AFB's signature if there's any activity or food being sold that will compete with AFB's. Public health will need to sign off on your form if you're going to be selling any food for safety reasons.
So what if I have a flyer and would like to advertise for my fundraiser?
If you're going to have any flyers that you will be advertising, posting anywhere, there is a disclaimer that you need to attach to it. It is in 34223. That disclaimer needs to be in large print, and it needs to be very visible on all of your flyers. You'll submit that with your fundraising request. We will review it for approval or denial as well. There is a limit to 3 on-base fundraisers per quarter. There is no limit for POs who want to do fundraising off the base. The AFI just recommends that you do a consult with either our office or JA before hosting any off-base fundraiser. We will not approve the off-base fundraisers for private orgs, but we will consult on possible risk of liability and a reminder that you are still to follow certain regulations and rules. Unofficial activities that want to do a base-wide fundraiser, you would fill out the same form and send it in for review.
What about fundraising during the combined federal campaign at the end of the year?
Fundraising during the combined federal campaign and the Air Force Assistant Fund's fundraising periods is allowed as long as the fundraiser will not detract from the CFC or the AFAF. During CFC and AFAF, no other fundraising will be conducted in the workplace, so that will be desk-to-desk donations are not allowed. Off-base solicitation. Unofficial activities are not allowed to go off-base and solicit donations or ask for discounts or use of spaces. Private organizations can solicit off-base, but it must be very clear that this is a private organization, that it is not part of the Department of Defense or any of its components, and it has no governmental status. An important thing, if you are a private org soliciting off-base, do not tell a company that you're tax exempt if you are not.
Can I do raffles as a type of fundraising activity?
Raffles are not allowed in the state of Utah. They are considered gambling, which is illegal under the Utah Criminal Code. That means that no raffles will be approved or allowed for any unofficial activity or private organization on Hill Air Force Base.
Can you explain what you mean by it's illegal in Utah?
Utah considers gambling, lottery, raffles, anything that falls under that category to be illegal, which means a scheme for the disposal or distribution of property by chance among persons who have paid or promised to pay any valuable consideration for the chance of obtaining property. And that's just a fancy way of saying if I give you anything of value or promise to give you anything of value for a chance to win something of value.
Well, there you have it. Raffling is a game of chance, and it is illegal in Utah. Well, Carly, thank you so much for coming and joining us today to talk about private organizations and unofficial activities here on base. This information was very valuable, and I hope you'll come and join us again next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to answer private work questions anytime.